Sandberg opens the chapter with a story of a meeting she once hosted where the only 4 women in attendance chose to sit at the side of the room rather than at the table. In doing so, they seemed more like spectators than participants, despite the fact that they had just as much right to be at the meeting. She uses this example to bring up one of the internal obstacles that hold women back. Women have a tendency to feel guilty and undeserving of success, resulting in a fear of being found out as a fraud. This imposter syndrome isn't reserved for women but does tend to be more strongly felt by women. Beyond the anxiety that this imposter syndrome causes is the fact that insecurity is often a self-fulfilling prophecy. Even the most qualified women might throw in the towel because of self-doubt. Instead, women should feel confident, or at least pretend to feel confident. This is what Sandberg means by sitting at the table. Don't expect others to make room for you, make room for yourself. A 2003 Harvard Business School study measured the perceptions of men versus women in the workplace. They showed the profile of an actual successful, outgoing businesswoman named Heidi to a group of students and then asked them to compare it to the profile of a fictional businessman of equal qualifications and personality, whom they called Howard. The experiment found that the students, men and women alike, favored the male profile, claiming Heidi was a less likable superior. The Heidi-Howard experiment supports the unfortunate finding that success and likability are negatively correlated for women. Women are aware of this, and in order to prevent being disliked, they often deny their accomplishments and put themselves down. Women should not have to compromise their career for being liked. Sandberg offers some suggestions for how to overcome this double bind, such as thinking personally, acting communally. This means framing your statements into group statements in order to prevent coming off as selfish. Learning to remain relentlessly pleasant, even when facing criticism, is also crucial in saving face. This doesn't mean that women should hide their emotions. Rather, they should feel them and then move on quickly, keeping in mind that it's impossible to please everyone. Mentorship and sponsorship go hand in hand with career progression, so it's no surprise that many women are on the lookout for one. However, telling young people that they need a mentor is problematic because it projects the notion that you need a mentor to excel. In reality, excelling on your own is the best way to get a mentor. Young women, in particular, have a hard time finding mentors because mentors tend to choose mentees they see as mirrors. And since they hold high-level positions and most high-level positions are held by men, they prefer other men as their mentees. Women can stand out by reaching out to make thoughtful observations or ask pointed questions. Over time, these brief interactions can develop into a mentorship. Another reason women tend not to reach out to their male seniors is out of fear for how their interaction will be perceived. It's okay for women and men to spend informal time together. It's not okay for this fear of judgment to stall a woman's career. Some companies have developed formal mentorship programs to get around this taboo, and they've been largely successful. It is also possible for peers to sponsor and mentor you, as colleagues at the same level may have insight that higher-ups may not. Women have been working toward true equality for too long. We, all people, need to act now. This book is a call to action. We need to acknowledge the stereotypes and biases that are holding us back from equality, accept them, and choose to move past them collectively. We must also encourage girls to be ambitious and women to seek out powerful positions in business and in government. Most importantly, we need to work together. This means men supporting women, but it especially means women supporting other women. When a woman expresses her bias, she legitimizes it, which can harm the movement. Women have been making progress for decades, but now, more than ever, they are close to closing the leadership gap. If we focus our efforts now, one day soon, we may no longer have female leaders, just leaders. Although many entry-level positions in the workforce are filled by women, it is still rare to see women holding senior positions. One of the reasons for the winnowing of women in the workforce is the leadership ambition gap. The desire for leadership is a culturally enforced trait that has traditionally been encouraged in men and discouraged in women. As a result, women shy away from risky career moves and advocating for themselves, which are 2 important steps to attaining senior roles. Often, this is done out of fear that they might be judged, that they will come off as unlikable, or that by valuing their career, they are being a bad wife or mother. These fears are reinforced by social cues that girls experience from a young age. Boys are applauded for speaking up and taking the initiative, while girls are silenced and told to yield to others. Over time, girls learn from these cues and end up silencing themselves. Men and women both have a role in overcoming the leadership ambition gap, but for women, the most important step is to let go of fear. Only by taking risks can women pursue professional success and personal fulfillment freely. Questions this book answers. 1. What can women do to attain more leadership positions? 2. How can men help women achieve true equality? 3. Where do motherhood and family fit into a high-power career? 4. What are the most effective methods of discussing gender inequality? Careers have previously been thought of as ladders, but that kind of simple hierarchy doesn't actually exist in most cases. A better way to think of careers, according to Patty Sellers, editor of Fortune magazine, is as a jungle gym, which has many ways to reach the top. To do this, women need to make strategic moves, namely taking risks and working on personal growth and development. Setting specific goals is an excellent way to encourage personal development. Almost always, the key to growth is taking on stretch assignments. When it comes to making career moves, one should embrace risk. Often, when we think we are not equipped with the skills required for a job, the only way to learn those skills is to do the job. When considering a new position, the most important factor should be a company's rate of growth. Fast-growing businesses have more to be done and fewer people to do those things. This is a great opportunity to learn new skills and show your ability to take the initiative. Authentic communication is crucial to successful relationships at home and at work. In the workplace, being honest is not always as easy as you'd hope. People in lower positions tend to hold back from speaking the truth for fear of being punished. This is doubly true for many women because of the other fears they may have surrounding work. When expressing disagreement, a useful method is to reflect the other person's viewpoint in your statement. From there, it will be easier to create a dialogue and come to a resolution. In the same vein, it's important to elicit honesty from others as well. Receiving advice and feedback can sometimes feel like criticism but will ultimately serve you and can even create great relationships. Another way to communicate authentically is to openly admit your own weaknesses. When others are aware of your shortcomings, they are more likely to provide help and encourage you to grow. After they help you, it's important to publicly thank them, as it will foster an encouraging environment. One of the reasons fewer high-level positions are held by women is because many women enter their careers with the intention of either leaving them altogether or stalling them to be a mother. Being a stay-at-home mother is a valiant job and often necessary. When women leave work to care for their children, they should be applauded. Certain career practices should be reconsidered, though. Far too many women turn down opportunities to take on more senior roles and grow their careers in anticipation of one day starting a family. This is the phenomenon that Sandberg refers to as leaving before you leave. Scaling back your workload and responsibilities is fine in the months leading up to birth, but doing so years in advance is ultimately going to injure you professionally. Often, when women who have limited their responsibilities before having children return to the workforce years later, they can feel underappreciated and underutilized. To prevent this from happening, you should establish your value and intention ahead of time. Women sometimes refuse extra responsibilities at work because they need to take care of their children, but they should consider the cost of childcare when making that decision. Taking on more responsibilities and the higher salary that comes along can be crucial to ensuring the best care for your child. Sandberg believes that the most important career decision a woman will make is whether she chooses to have a life partner and who that partner is. Your partner should be your champion. They need to be fully supportive of a woman's career in order for it to flourish. Otherwise, it's far too easy to fall into antiquated gender norms that pin men as breadwinners and women as mothers. Should a woman choose to become a mother, her relationship with her partner will define the future of her career. If you want a 50-over-50 relationship, you need to act accordingly from the get-go. That means communicating clearly and honestly about the division of labor in the home as well as in parenting. Men should be encouraged to take part in household tasks, and women should be careful not to discourage that involvement. Women sometimes exhibit behaviors that are counterintuitive, such as acting as gatekeeper. There is no right way to do anything, and by telling your partner they're doing things wrong, you discourage them from taking the initiative in the future. Likewise, asking your partner to participate can make it seem like they are doing you a favor, or worse, that you are nagging. Letting them take the initiative on their own is a better way to get them involved. It's impossible to do it all. Being a parent means making compromises elsewhere in life, and sometimes you'll have to make compromises when it comes to parenting as well. The antiquated myth of the woman that has it all or does it all is harmful to women because it's simply unattainable. This is true for both men and women, but only women ever get asked, "How do you handle it all?" The question is problematic because it reminds us that we're failing and elicits feelings of guilt. Rather than bending to unattainable standards, set your own goals and stick to them. Trying to be everything to everyone at once is exhausting and will hurt your performance in all environments, so do one thing at a time. Whether this means setting your work hours so you can have more time with your family or defining your maternity leave, what matters most is your follow-through. The best you can do is leave your guilt behind and work with the cards you've been dealt. In the past, talking openly about gender differences in public, especially in the workplace, has been avoided out of fear of creating an uncomfortable situation or overstepping boundaries. However, avoiding the subject is only going to make matters worse. While it's easier and generally more accepted for women to speak up about gender issues in the work environment, men have just as much of a responsibility to act in ways that promote equality. Women need to be able to speak with other women openly about their concerns, and men need to invite debate and discussion. These discussions can be tricky, though, and should be handled with care. We also need to acknowledge that all of us, even if we deny it, are biased. Failing to acknowledge our gender bias can unintentionally hold women back. Just like in the Heidi Howard experiment, male candidates are still more favored. When the male candidate is ultimately chosen to accelerate in his career, most people pass it off as merit-based, rather than recognizing the role their own gender bias played in that decision. Calling out this bias is a necessary step in enacting change.